nervous. I'm going to act like I'm doing something on the screen so my heart can stabilize. Just kidding, but not really. So this mic freely move, maybe. That's cool. Okay. I'm Abby. I'm going to walk around because that helps me calm down and move my hands as well. I am the founder of Lavender Elephant, which is a fashion brand up in the Rocky Mountains. A little bit about me, without going too far deep, because I think I'm going to touch on that as I continue to babble about my perspective on ethical fashion. And try not to be too bitter about it. So you might catch glimpses of that. Don't hold it against me. But it is my current space in my journey as a fashion designer. I was born and raised in New Orleans. I grew up with a sewing machine in my room. I was forced to go to sewing camp. My mom did tell me that I think I cried every morning before I got there. And I was forced to follow a pattern at the age of 7, I think. I successfully made a pair of pajama pants. I picked a really ugly fabric from Walmart. Never wore them. But after that, sewing was my thing. I mean, I think I was dressed as Madonna at one point with my mom's pantyhose and some things I probably couldn't have salvaged after I had gotten the scissors to them. But quickly after that, let's fast forward, I made my prom dress, my homecoming dress, all out of resourced textiles. I was volunteering at a couple of different communities within my church program, and I was able to snag a few things there and successfully had a few gowns. And from there, straight into LSU, I went to apparel and textile design school. So I would cheer anybody on that wants to do that, because we need you in the industry. We need textile science people. The industry needs textile science people, because we have the problem that we have right now, which is, can I throw it out there? Does everybody know? The landfills, we're running out of space to put everything. We have big companies overproducing, and so forth. So textile science was something I continue to visit now in my 30s. And I didn't know I loved it as much as I did, and I would use it as much as I do. And again, textile science, it is just as important as manufacturing and sewing. So graduated. School was hard for me. Art was easy. I could be in the lab for 15 hours. I actually ended up getting something wrong with my wrist because I was like probably sewing way more than I should have. It was called overuse syndrome. But I ended up pleating probably the most elaborate gown that my teacher did not approve of. It had accordion pleats all throughout it. You won't see a picture of it on here because I still to this day did not think it was beautiful. But that degree was important. It was very pivotal. And all of the extra activities I did in school were also pivotal, extremely pivotal, because I continue to repeat some of the mentors that I was able to encounter while traveling to New York during one of the field studies. I went to Tommy Hilfiger's design mansion. So it felt like, I think, like 10 floors. And I was hanging out in their inspiration studio, and there was a lifestyle coach in there hanging out with some of the designers, just kind of observing our group, and he ended up saying something along the lines of, you know, as fashion designers, when you get into your business in fashion, you really need to think about your life plan. That business plan needs to get into that life plan, and you need to make sure they go together, because it's going to be tough. Pretty much what I heard is that the fashion industry is hard, and he's right. So left there and left New York, back to Louisiana, graduated, got through it all. During my senior year, I was able to go to China. We were signing a friendship agreement. Louisiana State, was signing a friendship agreement with Southern Yangtze University. And I was the tallest person in the group. It was a very interesting trip. Not a singer, but everyone thought I was American Idol. So I soaked it up a little bit. And that trip was also pivotal. One little tidbit, we were in another very large building, in an elevator, third of the size of the stage. Just imagine, a very large elevator. And the doors open, and it was a room this big, full of sewing machines. And it was an exquisite facility. I mean, of course, it would have brought us to something other than that. But I'm going to preface this with saying, I'm not against outsourcing to China. I'm not against China. I'm not against any other areas that a lot of our labels outsource to. Because that's how the world turns. Everyone needs a job. Everyone needs a way to make money. And at that moment, yeah, I was in a facility, and it was really cool, and it was interesting. In China, they like to flip their facilities pretty quickly, so the whole building was designed to be a hotel. So say that company didn't last or work or so forth, they could flip it. So I thought that was kind of cool, not relative to the subject, but interesting. And yes, so I left college with that in my back pocket and told my mom I was going to Hollywood. She was like, please don't. It's going to spit you up, or chew you up and spit you out. And it did, very quickly. But I held to it. I was there for a year. I worked with Calvin Klein's son, developing an athletic label, Splits 59, which I think is still, it's a very high-end luxe sports apparel company. Economic downfall, 2008, everybody remembers that. So imagine being 22 hanging out in Los Angeles. It was interesting. Stores were closing. I got a job with Vanity Fair working at another athletic company. You might be familiar with Lucy. Okay, this is a funny story. I was at the register, and I'm really good at sales. Let's just say that. All throughout all of my jobs, I was really good at sales. And I was selling this woman $4,000 in Spanish. And I was like, feeling it. I was just, like, they looked great on her. I mean, they did. And she ended up buying $4,000 worth. And I got my boss, who I became friends with, pulled me aside the next day at work, and she was like, so we got an email from our CEO about your sales. Like, you've had the best sales that anybody's ever had in here. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I can't do this. I don't want to sell that much. I don't think anybody needs that much, unless she's buying for a village, you know? So I quit that job during the economic downfall. And I'm saying this quick because I didn't expect to get into this, but it's very relative to my experience and what I'm doing now. And I got another job offer. You know, you're thinking everyone's struggling at this point, right? And I'm calling my mom, and I'm like, well, I lost my salary, but then I got this job, and then now Equinox wants to hire me, and I'm pretty sure I had just either saw like a couple movie stars that week, like Samuel Jackson, and I was like, just really in that Hollywood experience, and not sure if I loved or hated it, but I didn't like what I was doing in the industry. And that was the whole point I went to Hollywood, was to feel it, to be in it, and see if I was committed, you know. That's just how I work. So I denied that job, and I found myself back in Louisiana, my last salary check, and I was like, I'm gonna move to the mountains. And I was like, oh my gosh, please just stay with us. Like, nope, I gotta go. I gotta go to the Rocky Mountains. I've been moving way too fast, and what better than to hang out in the Rocky Mountains. So I did that, and wow, winter burn. Now it's booming, but 9 years ago, you're like, what do I do now? There's no one here. So I found myself sewing again. I didn't really run from the industry, but between Rodeo Drive and sweeping for a living and selling lots of spandex, I tried to pull away from it, and I found myself right back into it. A sewing machine in my room, and I was fixing garments, and sooner or later I had someone say, hey, do you want to make 12 bridesmaids dresses? And I was like, sure. So I threw the hot tub cover down, and I had a design table, and I was stitching, and I loved it. Did not think twice about what I was doing. So back to the childhood bedroom. Typically what I would do is cut up whatever I got from the thrift store. I was a baby of 4, slight accident. Baby of 4 kids. And my mom didn't really like shopping with me. It's not what she wanted to do in her spare time. So, I don't know, I was always making stuff, cutting stuff up. Going to the fabric store wasn't ever fun because I never liked what I could find. So I had a knack for cutting. I was confident at just whatever I had in my mind and executing it. So, you know, back into the mountains, like getting back into the pattern work and doing all this, you know, fun sewing, leisurely sewing, I created a brand. And at that point, I didn't have any cultural experience. You know, touching on what Stephanie has encountered with traveling, I'll get to that. But at that moment, what I did think about the industry was pretty interesting. Sorry, I should have just kept clicking it. And I created Lavender Elephant based upon this store that I used to go to called the White Elephant, which was secondhand goods, and thought it would be like really clever. Like, well, whatever I end up doing in the mountains is going to work under this brand. So whether it was yoga, what else was I doing? Yoga, whatever came to my, you know, financial needs there at Winter Park, I do under Lavender Elephant. Now I have this monster that I'm having to deal with, which you can follow me for that. I won't get into the business stuff, it's quite boring. But I use these power words to just hold me accountable to what I wanted to do in the industry. And it was happiness, hope, and honesty. Whatever I did in fashion, whatever I did with threads, whatever I did, just period, I wanted to instill happiness. I wanted to instill hope. I wanted to be honest. I always wanted to be transparent. I didn't want to be like, yeah, it's 100% cotton. Just kidding, it's actually polyester and blah, 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 blah. You know, I wanted to ring true with whatever I did. And it has been very difficult. You know, that was in 2012, branded, you know, whatever custom garment I did with that name. And it was a struggle. I would go shopping for something and be like, I can't say that this is what it isn't, you know, because I'm trying to live true. This is a gown that pretty much started that, like showed me that external representation of that fire that I had. And it was made out of fitted bed sheet. I'm really good at procrastinating, really good at setting like almost unattainable goals. And I had a fashion show and I kind of worked really well on the hot seat. I worked really well like, in a pinch, like Project Runway style, make it work moments. And flowing into my design process, I like to restore, I like to reform, and I really like to reinvent. So we like the word upcycle in the industry right now because it's really popular. I'm trying to not use that word now because I don't feel like it really does value to the level of work that I can offer. But with no fabric stores in Winter Park, it was the perfect equation for success for me. And point to the industry when I tried to like be like, ugh, like I can't go in there. It makes me cry because it actually does. At some stores I will start to cry because I feel the effect of that consumerism. I know the after effect that the earth is feeling when I'm in some stores. But at one of my business boot camps, I learned that, you know, pointing a finger and talking about what people are doing wrong isn't necessarily going to help anything. So I took that piece of advice instead of watching True Cost over and over again, or watching all the other videos on YouTube that talk about our waste management and crisis in the fashion industry. And I just started being like, what do I do? I mean, like, what can I do? How do I work? And I'm really good at flipping stuff. I'm really good at cutting stuff. I'm good at making trash look good. So I focused on that. I honed in on it, and I made it magnificent. Because this dress, I made it using minimal stitches, because we know in the production industry, the more pattern work, the more stitches you have, the higher cost, the higher difficulty, the more the item's going to be. So this gown was made with a stitch in the back, where you can see it's gathered near the calves. A little bit more of a close-up, and I put the bed sheet, the fitted bed sheet, like over the shoulders, and then dropped it down, stitched a little bit in the back, stitched 2 darts, like gathered darts in the front, and then something at the shoulders. And it was done. It's called the, what did I call this one? The Abbey Road dress, because it could travel easy, and it was fabulous. Another garment called the Fruta wrap, which is this weird ruffle thing, part of a really terrible dress that no one would, I think, wear in full print other than me. But a lot of difficulties in the industry that, let's reword that. Sizing's dead. If anybody does not agree with me, you can raise your hand. But most companies create their own sizing, and it gets all muddled, and then you got someone that's like, oh, I'm a size 50, great. You know, and you have to deal with that in the industry a lot, like we do as designers. And because I'm a different size than the average woman, but I design for all women, all sizes. And since the start of the company, I've focused on that. And all of us are beautiful, all shapes and sizes. And in the Valley of Winter Park, I still feel like I'm trying to prove that a little bit, because they're nervous to come in there because it's a Lavender Elephant boutique experience, but I'm continuously seeing surprise faces. This is another top. So about my process, when I'm restoring, reforming garments, I like to use what's kind of bad about the garment as the good thing. It like forces me to make a decision and go either way. And it's really fun. This was a peasant Victorian style dress, short. I made it shorter, turned it backwards, removed the zipper, and took, I think, whatever's at the waist, and then I made a bow. And yeah, that sold pretty quickly. But it was a really cute, fun piece to design. And I did add elastic at the wrists to make it a little bit more fun. This was one of my favorite pieces. So when we look at textile waste, it comes in many forms, right? Like a poorly made garment that never really made it anywhere. Maybe Forever 21 did it, right? Because they very, very fast fashion. Or we can have like a fragmented garment that's been, you know, chewed up by a dog, and like, what are you gonna do with it, right? Goodwill can take it. Or you just got stuff that's just terribly ugly. Which could have been this print. I think I thought it was terribly ugly when I started on it. And then it ended up being the start of one of my patterns that will be in one of my collections eventually, that is called the Mama jacket. It's a jacket that caters to the 30-year-old, but then it can totally fit a 70-year-old. Because I've had a 65-year-old buy this one and a 35-year-old buy my one made out of wool. And this was made from pattern, kind of jigsawing those puzzle fabrications together. And this showed in a local Denver Palette Fest fashion show, which I'm not sure is continuing. But this one got a lot of media attention, I would say. It was a fabulous piece. So, let's see if I'm staying on track. So yeah, the process, you can see, is just another piece of mine made out of fragmented heirloom collars, and I believe that's Thai silk print as the bodice. And then a Forever 21 shirt that made into like went into 5 garments because it was very unattractive on the human body. So I could use it throughout this collection that you'll continue to see that showed at New Orleans Fashion Week. And you know, our mission at Lavender Elephant is 95%. 95% of all of our garments are made from post-consumer waste. I've been doing that forever. If you see me carry a bolt of fabric into my shop, it's done with a little bit of anxiety because I'm like, someone's judging. Someone's judging. They know I'm like cheating, but I'm not cheating. I'm probably producing something for a client that needs all of that fabric. Yeah, so Cordura is something I buy a lot, which is really hard to buy sustainably, but luggage is almost better than Cordura. So if you ever have a torn up piece of luggage, give me a call because that fabric is great. Old bridesmaids dresses, that was a good one for this. I had a lady from one of the models from one of the TV shows steal this from backstage and like ran away from it. My She thought that like someone was running away with my gown. So what is ethical fashion to me? My husband's probably tired of just hearing that statement because I think I've just said that with nothing for like 2 weeks because it is really hard for me to describe it. Because as I have discovered through personal experience with managing waste, because as much as you see all the pretty things up here for a year, I have not actually produced a garment. I have only repaired garments. If I have produced a garment, it was some of the wedding gowns you'll see, but I, as a fashion designer, have not produced a garment from scratch because I've just been stuck. I've just been feeling annoyed and frustrated that this is where we are. Like, this is what I was born to do. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But what can fashion designers do? We have to rethink where we are. We really do, because we're in a crisis. I mean, there's nowhere else to put everything. So when I really have to give it a definition, you know, by textbook, ethical fashion is garments that are produced using sustainably sourced materials, offering fair wages and a nice environment to sew them in. So that makes sense, right? But I feel like what's missing from that is what happens to it after it's produced. Where's the designer responsibility in this? Because I mean, I have to say I'm being overly responsible. I've literally like catapulted my career. I'm working in waste management. I make 5 figures in repairs. I'll take it. My mom was like, my husband would probably like a little bit more, but like, my mom's like, wait, so you're making what? Like, I'm repairing Gore-Tex, I'm on like ski pants, I've got tons of stuff in this shop that is just coming through the door because I have made a dedication to helping consumers be more holistic about what they're doing. So someone comes to me with a $500 jacket and they're like, can you put a new zipper in this thing? Like, I just bought it. I'm like, yeah, because I know when that goes in the landfill, it's not going to decompose because it's made out of synthetic fibers. Yes. And I now charge the right price for that. Before I was like, yeah, I'll just do it, $20, and it would like be 10 hours later and I'm like making no money. But now that I've got the business side together, it's really exciting to see that some of my people are coming back and they're like, yeah, I want to save this. My mama made this, or yeah, I want this. Like, oh, there's the before. That's terrible. I didn't know I saw that in there, so that's kind of a surprise. Oh, that was a fun one. There was another piece of the ruffle. She really worked that because it was an interesting piece. So yeah, that's my tidbit on the ethical fashion of it. You know, being more solution oriented is where I want to stay. So a little bit more about the industry. So has anybody read a tag currently? Like, have you purchased something new and read what the tag says? Anybody? Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yes. So does it say on there where the textile is sourced? Have you ever been like, oh, the llama was named Alfie? Anybody? Like,
No, never.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you've seen? Okay, so that's cool. It's really cool. I think everybody should do that. I think we're at the time where now you look at your label and you should be able to see, this is Rachel Zoe from Buffalo Exchange in Boulder that I'm wearing. Yeah, I mean, it says a bunch of other cool stuff on it, but yeah, it doesn't say where the leather came from. I'd like to say it was like from a farm where the animals were taken care of, but what do we know, you know? So that's why I'm only committed to buying secondhand. I'm pretty sure the only thing I have that is not secondhand are my page denim jeans because I could not find the size on eBay. But I went through 2 years. 1 year, 100% committed, no purchase of anything that was not secondhand. The only thing I bought brand new, if I needed it, I think was my underwear. But yeah, I know. But that was life changing because it was like, oh, can I be fashionable with just secondhand? Like, what do you do? And yeah, it was easy. I mean, y'all, we have TJ Maxx. That's liquidated at least. Go get it. That's the stuff that didn't make it in anyone's closet, but it's still cool. Ross's, Dress for Less. You got Nordstrom Rack, which is like still higher end, but it's liquidated. I mean, there's no reason to walk into Old Navy and grab something brand new. I'm sorry if I'm so direct saying that, but that's like the truth. Dillard's. Have you gone into a Dillard's lately? Have you seen that Dillard's is like cutting down their stores and then throwing everything into the, no one knows. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. Yeah, so I do liquidation shopping for my shop because the women in Winter Park really don't have anywhere to shop. Oh, this is a favorite. It actually got stolen at the fashion show. I never saw it again. Cried about it for a bit. Yeah, Dillard's is now like not, they're liquidating all of their stores, and if you go into one that's kind of in an underpopulated area, you will see racks of stuff, just racks of it. So if you need something and you really like love this new fad that's going on, you can go look for it because I'm sure it's coming back in. I mean, every trend is going to be revisited. So I'll leave that there, the Dillard's thing. So yes, back to the last leg of my speech, which goes into textiles. Textiles, it is, again, an obsession now. I have a lot of equipment that I want to buy so I can weave my own hemp, but I will not be doing that because I don't ever want to produce that much fabric. But textiles is where it's at. We need to rethink textiles. There are people doing it. You got salmon skin wallets now, and you've got plastic bottle pants. Let's throw out a new one. There's someone's growing microorganisms like kombucha. Yeah, there's a
Yeah, it's like
soap, right?
Yeah, so super cool, right? It's probably really expensive, hard to produce in terms of large scale, but the new fiber, I think that's going to take a revolution is hemp, and I have lots of samples of hemp, and there is a company, Liquid Springs, that has a mill in China, and I want to ask them if I can go check it out, because what would be cooler than going to see a mill in China using their own hemp fibers to create hemp. But let's try to apply this. Who has a couch? Okay, so couches have that liner on the under part, right? That like faux cotton or blend, whatever it is. That's produced by like the bajillions. So I'm on the phone with this manufacturing company about their textile thing. It's like 4-ton textile equipment. And they're like, who are you? No one calls unless you want 10 of these, and it's gonna cost millions of dollars. I'm like, well, whatever, I want one. And I want to make hemp. I want to make hemp fabric. Anybody doing it? And they're like, gave me that little, and no one take this idea, but, and if you do, I understand. But he's like, you know this is being recorded, right? Yeah. I mean, why? And he's like, okay, whatever. And so we skipped to it, and I could tell that I was saying something that hadn't been heard before. Like, I want to make hemp that new fabric that's being used for all of these other pieces of equipment that's using cotton or more detrimental textiles to the land for our water. It's using too many resources. I will post after this a video of like how to navigate your choice of textiles. Like, is tinsel, like tinsel's okay, but it's still man-made. And what's better than the other? It's really hard to buy 100% hemp, right? You feel like it might be like rough, but it's not. Hemp can be blended with other things and make it better than what our options are. So it's really kind of weighing, like, what's worse, what's better? How can we navigate this without being like, I don't know, use canola, but kind of like boring or drab, or how do we express ourselves? Because that's what fashion's all about. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be like exciting. It's supposed to be like how we feel. And to sacrifice that would be absolutely terrible. We'd be in like a Wall-E movie. This one was fun too. This was a shawl that became a dress. Textiles, let's fast forward to wedding gowns, because that's a lot of these slides right here. I restore and flip gowns for brides. I have anywhere from 40 to 60 brides a year. Very busy, dedicated to making these brides happy in their mom's dresses. She was really happy. So happy. That was her mom's gown, and it was terribly ugly on her. And we were able to make it work with a whole new bodice. And even if you get a dress from David's Bridal, I haven't even been speaking into the mic, sorry guys. If you buy a vintage gown and it still doesn't work, I can make it work. Because that's what I want to do. I want to keep that dress out of the landfill. I want you to be able to give that to your daughter. Even if it's a vintage gown that needs to be completely reconstructed, I can do it. That happens more often than none. I still call it a vintage restoration because we are starting with that vintage textile. This is me. Unfortunately, I made my dress in 2 days because I had so many brides. This was my mom's gown mixed with my aunt's gown, and it is an incredibly rewarding experience for my clients and myself and their family to make this an option. I couldn't imagine not having this on my wedding day. Brides come to me and they cry when they leave because they're able to leave with a 95% sustainably sourced gown. I say that the zipper and the thread is the other 5%. So sifting through, we rent out vintage furs because guess what? Vintage furs are already out there, you might as well wear them. This is traveling through Vietnam. I saw these water buffaloes, got a little too close. And it smelled pretty terrible. And this landfill continued. It continued down the hill. I continued to take photos to seek how many fibers, like textiles, I could see in the landfill, and it was mixed. It was mixed media. And as we think about throwaway fashion, fast fashion, having you think about that action of, oh man, I just ripped my jeans. Well, what do I do with it? I could use it for a wash rag. I could maybe use this for patching material, or see if you can locate a textile recycling facility near you. I've looked into that quite a bit myself. I'd love to be able to grind up fibers. Love that. It's very toxic as well because you have a lot of water use to cleanse those fibers and pulp those fibers. But it's got to go somewhere. And about that, there's a problem with the landfills as well. And if you haven't heard it, even those fibers that can decompose or biodegradable, they can't if they're in a fill that's too full because there's not enough air and movement to allow that process to occur. So as we see it, the path we're on, it's in the consumer's hand to actually create a voice of change. I created Fashion for Change movement, taking photos for a couple years and actually losing a lot of money on making calendars with women wearing really cool second-hand sourced garments made by me. But trying to bring like a voice to that and figuring out a way to like shake people out of this consumerism cycle that we're on. And the Fashion for Change movement is dedicated on education, not necessarily to point the fingers, but to give us solutions. And one of the solutions is read your tag. It's really as simple as that, because you can find everything you need on that tag, and if there isn't the information you need, don't buy it. Look on eBay, look on Amazon, not Amazon, eBay, or call me, and I can give you a resource, because I do it every day. I had a woman walk in yesterday with a couple of garments she got from slave trade. She knew it. She got the email saying she couldn't return it. They were terrified to get it back in the mail, and that she wouldn't get her money back because she didn't listen to me. She was scared because she needed the dress for her daughter's wedding. It's a real thing. We get it. The whole industry is surviving on the fact that us as humans want to look good. We want to express ourselves. But now, 2018, we have options. So search out your options, and if you need someone to help you, reach out, because we got it. Thank you.